Everyone, welcome back. BetSperts Golf for the 3M Open, also known affectionately around here as the Andy Molitor Open, joined by the man himself before he gets boots on the ground. He was kind enough to stay in his humble abode to talk 3M with you. Andy, how we doing?
Yeah, heading to the 3M after this. It's a lovely course to walk around. It's just like in a neighborhood, like some of these TPC courses, just hanging out in people's backyards watching practice rounds. But no, the Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Open in its fifth year, formerly, I think they used to do like a senior event up here, but cool that we have a local event. And it's a nice spot for broken down old top golfers to come and try to steal some points. It's kind of what it, there's a few guys who sponsorship or whatever, but I mean, for the most part, the top of the field is some guys that are trying to get it right. I don't know if I'd stick Sungjae, and Sungjae's house plays here for some reason, but there's been some names. I walked around with Usti a couple years ago. Obviously, Finau's won this. It's been some weird winners. Obviously, Wolf was Wolf the original winner. I think it was
Wolf. Wolf and Bryson, right? Late in that one, right? Because Michael Thompson, you've had Cam Champ,
Michael Thompson, then Cam Champ, and then Finau.
Yeah.
We haven't had.
Let's unpack.
It's a mix.
Go ahead.
It's a bit of a mix of winners for sure. Go ahead.
I want your Open Championship thoughts. We have a major season behind us. Brian Harman, I don't know. It's like it was boring theoretically, but like good for him for making it boring. But he just kind of like stepped on everyone's throat and just kind of kept it there. Everyone was waiting for the collapse. He did it both, I think, Saturday and Sunday early in the round where he gave a couple back and then just grabbed the reins again. And no one really jumped in to make it a really competitive match. But I don't know, playing in a major or playing in any tournament with a massive, I think that's really to do. And he, I think, deserves credit for doing so. It looks like he's pretty much based on points, put himself on the Ryder Cup team. Thoughts on the Open, thoughts on Harman, thoughts on the Ryder Cup?
Yeah, probably put himself on the team. Great win. He's a guy who's been good. And I went and checked where I had him in like my numbers. He was just outside of range. And I mean, you saw what I did outrights last week. I couldn't justify most of the numbers. I bet Xander, and then you tricked me into some Morikawa, and that was pretty much it. I spent more on my outrights at the Barracuda than I did at the Open. I really liked 3 matchups last week. 2 of them won fairly easily. A third was looking like it was also going to be settled by the cut line. It did get settled by the cut line. Siwoo Kim went into Friday with a 10-stroke lead in his matchup and only lost that matchup by 2 strokes. So that was quite the amazing 2-1 performance. I'm just happy it wasn't the, whenever I go like 2-1, 3-1, or whatever one loses is usually the one I feature in the free newsletter, which just bothers me to no end. I like to give out some free winners. So it was nice that one wasn't featured in the newsletter, at least, because that was just painful. I mean, he was like 4 over through 3 holes. Other than that, I mean, like you said, boring, but the course was good enough to, it's just such a fun course to watch. It's even if it's not guys you're rooting for, maybe it's somebody you don't like, or maybe it's Rory, and there's those pot bunkers, and half the fun of watching it is just like it scooted right past it, or he just drove right through it. There are some it created some very interesting, obviously JT in the round 1 there. We had a few different spots. Tony having to putt backwards out of the pot bunkers. It's just not something you get to see that often. Obviously, gorgeous landscape. Just getting people to play, watching them play 17 and 18 was always interesting, no matter what. Seeing the different ways you can attack attack 18, seeing the some of the shit show that was 17. So I enjoyed it, even though, like you said, it was boring in the end. As far as the result, it was never really in doubt for the last 2 days. It's still, it's still a major. You want to take it in, you want to watch it. And yeah, congrats to Harman. Congrats to a bunch of guys who finished T2 and ended up with, if you finish high enough at a major, you're getting your golf has this weird, and I called it Byzantine yesterday on the deep dive. It is, though. There's all these rules about points and what happens, but some of these guys getting second in a major or top 4 in a major, it's a really big deal for getting to play in some other big events next year, or just locking things up. You get to play, and hey, you're the rules around getting into the players, the rules around getting into the other majors. So congrats to everyone who played well. The Barracuda was fun, but man, everything I said about the course, like, hey, it's an awesome links course with pot bunkers, like the Barracuda course sucks. If it didn't have awesome vistas of the mountains because it's in Lake Tahoe, it is a really shitty muni. Like, I mean, guys were just throwing darts. I mean, the bad shots were like, oh no, he has a 20-footer now, and that's probably a 2-putt. And it was really hard to watch guys struggle at all. I mean, people just didn't struggle. That said, I still want to go there next year. I still think I'm planning on going to the Barracuda because it's like $20 to get in, even if you didn't have to, if you didn't get media. And I guess I liked it because I had an outright. Actually, I did win, but I think I had a weird bookmaker number. It's like 43.79.
Oh,
one of those
awesome.
weird ones. So
because I think he closed down in the 20s or whatever.
Yeah, no, he got bet quite a bit, and I love how he just took this week off. Even though the points thing was weird, he did, because he won one of these events, he loses the points from this event and the Barbasol for some reason. But now he's technically on tour, so he could qualify for the playoffs, and naturally he just took the week off instead, heading to God knows where with his Instagram model girlfriend instead. So I guess that it is what it is, but I'm fine with it.
The Ryder Cup is an interesting discussion. We don't have to go long on that today. Harman looks like he's in a point, but like we are like 9-10 weeks out. So he's playing great form wise. I don't know what to make of that discussion, but we can get into it. I'm going to jump out and come back in because my audio was really wild. I'm glad you went long, but I heard you in one ear as you were live, and I heard you in a 10-second delay in the other ear. So you can wax poetic about the 3M TPC Twin Cities, and I'm going to come right back.
Yeah, no, I'll talk just real quick, like Ryder Cup standings. Obviously, winning a major does a lot for you. Brooksy didn't have the great performance that we saw at some of the other majors. He's still up there, but it does look like Brooks is still going to be in on his number just based on how many points he was able to get in. But Scotty, Wyndham, Harman, Brooks, Xander, Patrick are your automatic qualifiers right now, with Homa, Young, Spieth, Keegan, Collin, and Ricky Fowler as the next 6 in points. Obviously, those are decisions that are up to the captain. Justin Thomas currently sitting 14th. Denny McCarthy right behind him. Sam Burns, Kitayama, Zalatoris, obviously not going to take him with the injury. Harris, Finau, and Chris Kirk. Harris English. Past that, I don't know what we're going to do with that. I made a case for Justin Thomas still making the team because of his experience with match play and some of the absolute blow up holes. It's not going to matter in match play. You can't shoot 5 over on a hole when you're playing a singles match versus somebody on Sunday. I still think his experience matters. So we'll see what the cap does on that. But yes, the 3M Open is in TPC Twin Cities, and I'm going to put a map of this. There's a good shot of the overhead map of this course. Somebody featured on Twitter the other day, and honestly, I think a lot of people would be guessing wrong if you showed them that picture. They'd guess one of the Florida courses. There's an obscene amount of water on this course. And it is the land of 10,000 lakes, but essentially, this is an extension of the Florida swing. And I have another tweet saved up. I guess you don't even have to read the newsletter this week because I'll tell you all the tweets that are going to get featured in it. But traditionally, almost every year, there's more water balls here than there is at Sawgrass, and there is at other southern courses that find themselves in the Florida swing that end up with a lot of balls in the water. There's so many water balls here. So it's an easy course, but you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. And we saw it when Tony won. He almost did it a couple times. And that was always the joke with Tony. Tony can't close. And then we see it on 17. He hits a bad tee shot. And if it weren't for a 4-story high bleachers there with a big backboard, I guess Tony could have been wearing his basketball jersey like we have seen in the Waste Management, because he took one off the he called bank there. That still almost rolled off into the water. And then 18 has a big pond as well. And things always get a little dicey with Tony. He still got it done, but yeah, it's still an easy course, as we have in the notes here. It played a little tougher last year. Ron asked if I had any thoughts on that from going up. And I did remember from his preview from last year, I had to remind him of his own preview. They did lengthen the rough a little. And it wasn't one of those bullshit, hey, the rough is going to get cut up a little. Like, it was a legit 4 inches. We haven't had a lot of rain. Obviously, they have plenty of ways to water. They can just drain the ponds if they want. But it looks pretty lush up there from what I'm seeing already. Like I said, I'll be up there this afternoon. I won't inundate my Twitter with like 100 pictures. Maybe I'll do some Instagram posts. I never do anything on the IG. Maybe I'll put it on fucking Threads. Who knows? But yeah, with the wind did make it play a little firmer, causing some balls to run. That can cause you some problems with water holes on, 13 holes with water danger. And just with that taller rough, some of the guys who were a little inaccurate and were able to get away with it in years past, they really did struggle a little more with those second shots out of the rough. So we're looking for drivers. Length is great. Accuracy is better. A little of both would be real solid. We've seen names like that. Some of these guys who have big drives, who find fairways and leave themselves short chips and can't putt anyway. We've seen them still shoot up the leaderboard. Johnny Vegas, a few years back, just took this course to task and missed every putt. He still was like in the top 5 as he was, big driver, was finding all the fairways. Didn't matter that he couldn't putt. He was still right up there with the leaders. And, some of the guys with the shorter drives, but still accurate, who have decent long irons, these are easy to hit greens. So just find yourself some greens, score here. It is going to be a low scoring event again, and just stay out of trouble. Like the bogey avoidance, the double bogey avoidance. I guess for the most part, driving accuracy. That's why I said I'd take it over distance if I had the choice, because I'd rather be, 30 yards short of the other drive if the other drive is at the bottom of a small creek.
Yeah, there'll be.
I saw Matthew Wolf put one in the water in a body of water that wasn't even part of the course. Like, it was like a drainage ditch behind some houses, and it went like over our heads as we were standing out there. I'm like, I think that went in the water. It's not even part of the course, man. It's over the walking path. As he is, it's been a long time since he's been on the tips of our tongue. He's just someone we were excited about. I remember that a few years ago. Anything I missed there on 3M on TPC TC?
No, I do think you made a good point. There is a little bit more nuance comparatively to some of the other birdie fests that we've seen of late. When you think of Detroit, when you think of John Deere, because of the water, all right, it's just not complete bombs away, because a lot of these guys are staring at interesting, water and landing spots. Their fairways are wide, so you do have to be like really spraying it to get yourself in a ton of trouble. But the rough is a problem, as you mentioned. There was a good amount of wind last year too, which I think drove some scores a little bit lower than we've seen in years past. So yeah, a little bit more nuance. I mean, I think it's an interesting course. If it wasn't, like you said, in the middle of a neighborhood, because it's just not aesthetically pleasing, because you're just in like a rich suburban community of Blaine. Yeah. It doesn't show as well on TV as I think they're probably, as it would be if it was kind of standing alone. Even like the John Deere is, not as much in the neighborhood, just from a TV watching standpoint. But yeah, I mean, long and straight plays everywhere. It does, I think, matter here. You got to be able to get hot. You mentioned the water balls. I think 303 last year. It's kind of wild. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot of balls in the water here. So, driving accuracy, I kind of backed into something by accident yesterday, building a model. I shared a tweet and actually
I saw that. Yeah, expound on that a little.
And we have the ability to. So, driving accuracy is, I think, just any statistic by itself can be a little noisy without context. And driving accuracy is basically just capturing fairways found, right? Are you in the fairway off the tee? But there is definitely like a down the middle and, on the fairway along the first cut. And we have a PGA Tour stat, and, in our customizable stat database, licensed PGA Tour data, where you can capture the distance from the edge of the fairway, which is going to give you a little bit more context to driving accuracy. So I put that in the model, and I saw Ron did it. He put his actually off the tee model in our Discord this morning for subscribers, capturing a lot of different elements, because off the tee, I think, matters a ton here, and not just distance. I think you can get an understanding of some guys that populate pretty well in edge of the fairway, distance off the edge of the fairway, that don't really populate really well in driving accuracy. So that tells me that when those guys miss, they don't miss by much very often on average, versus some guys you'll see that, hey, their driving accuracy is pretty good, but they're actually significantly lower on the distance off the edge of the fairway, meaning that when they miss, they tend to have big misses. And that's what you want to avoid here. You want to avoid the big miss, because the big miss in the landing zone off the tee typically is wet. And here that's going to be a stroke penalty or two, because, that's kind of the design, and that's the only thing in the course is defense. So I think being able to look at that and kind of marry the two is something that I want to be able to layer into my approach moving forward. And I think it really matters here in particular.
Yeah, there's a few spots, and again, this is the only course besides Waste Management that I have firsthand experience, like walking and watching them play. There's so many rough areas that are just turned into walking paths. Like by day 4, a lot of these spots where if you can miss wide. I saw, again, I think it was Johnny Vegas. He missed the fairway. He was like 25 yards off the fairway. And I mean, it was just an easy little iron shot into the green, because he didn't end up behind a tree, and the grass was matted down from all the crowd. So like you said, the water is the true defense, even with the taller rough. There are some trees, but a lot of them aren't really placed in spots that are going to be a problem. There's a fun bunker on 16. That's the most fun, I think, as far as watching. The closing holes are good because of the 17 is over water, and then 18's a long par 5. I mean, you're prepping for the 3M by watching the Open. You have a tough par 3 on 17, and a par 5 that can get you in trouble if you go for it on 18. But 16 is a lot of fun, because they'll bring that tee box up on Friday and make it into like basically a really, really short par 4. I think it was just a shade over 300 last year. So a bunch of guys driving that green, and that was the most fun I had sitting there. Found a shade tree and just sat and watched people, and everyone, and then it just scoots past the hole. Again, I think maybe bucket list for like golf watching. I want to watch a hole-in-one on a par 4. Like that's all I want to see. That's where I'll be heading this week. You got to be there on Sunday, though. They do make it quite a bit longer than the other days. Let's get into some of the guys we think can win, because, like I said, I hit Akshay last year, so the wall's a little flush. And, I mean, it was just a lot of names that I liked this week, and the prices were okay. I will say I did get kind of effed on some of these prices. I waited, because I was waiting for Bookmaker, hoping they've had the best prices on a lot of the guys I've liked for weeks on weeks on weeks. So I scraped a couple of the other books I'd used offshore, sat there all morning, waited for them to come up. Essentially, they have the price that all of those fell to. Like 6 of the 8 outrights I bet got worse over those 8 hours, which I guess is good. The market is with me. I got CLV in my head, but I bet shitty numbers. I actually revisited a couple, like, should I even be betting this anymore at this number? I still ended up doing it. I went small. I have 8 outrights. I'll talk about most of them now, starting with my guy. Boy, I couldn't stop talking about Johnny Vegas. Now I go right to Grillo. I'm just, is this set up for South Americans? And you can once again tell exactly what book I bet that at, because I got him at 25.59. There was 30s in the morning. I really wish I had grabbed the 30. He is, when I'm running numbers, I think for a course like this, one of the easiest things to do is, every course I run a model for form. I'm looking at long-term form coupled with short-term form. And I give everyone a power ranking in that. Then I do one just for irons and approach. It's kind of a blended model with approach, greens and regulation, a couple other stats that are a little more focused on that course based on the distance and proximity stuff. And I run a ranked model, and then I convert that into a power ranking again. And then I do one just for course fit. So he obviously is going to pop super high in the form. He had a great finish last week. And then just, again, looking at the approach numbers, and when I run that approach and greens and regulation only kind of numbers model, whatever you want to call it, he's one of the best here. He is one of the favorites for a reason. He's up there with the big names. I don't know that around the green matters as much here. Because we saw it like...
it hasn't.
No, it hasn't. We saw like, Tony was really good around the green. And then you go look, and it was like, yeah, but it was like 10 shots all week.
Yeah.
It was just a few. Hey, he had a little pitch on a par 5, and he had a couple of these where he didn't miss. But you can't get in a ton of trouble around the greens unless it's wet. So I don't worry about that. He is lacking some touch in his around the green stuff, but his ability to find the greens and his approach play, I don't really think I'm too worried about that being a deficiency in the game. And then when I started looking at some of the, the granular stuff on bogey avoidance, double avoidance, I liked a lot what I seen here too. So took him at 25-1 Emiliano Grillo, and yeah, he's a winner on tour. He's gotten over that hump. He has that win equity. There's not a ton of names here outside of those, those big names. There's some big names at the top who've won some majors, and then it gets awful squeaky for names who've won events, and maybe you've won events recently, I guess.
Before Grillo, did you consider any of the top 5? Because you kind of have that tier of guys that are, like you mentioned above, Tony, Cam Young, Decky, Sanjay, and JT, right? You have some guys here where now the playoffs have gone from 125 to 70. Guys are trying to get points, trying to.
Yeah, if I was going to take anybody at the
top, make the case for themselves.
Noonan's internet is fucked today. He's just froze like a motherfucker again.
Is it me?
Yeah, I don't know unless. I hope it wasn't me.
Old school.
Tony's priced a little low for where he's playing right now. Kind of the same thing with Hideki / I don't know if he's super engaged here. Obviously, Justin just playing the way he's playing in stroke play. I mentioned I wouldn't mind him in the Ryder Cup in stroke play. I don't think his game is translating very well for a course like this where he can get himself in trouble with some of these wayward shots, and suddenly he's wet again. Like JT to miss the cut here is live, which is crazy considering the field strength. At the top it was basically Sanjay or nothing. I like a lot of his game. I like how it translates here.
I agree.
I just needed a little better price. I kind of pivoted over to Grillo instead. It was tough. I like Sepp a little as well, but I wanted a little more of a price there.
And that's kind of it for me with a lot of the top of the board. Actually, a lot of the board in general is that I like a bunch of guys, but I couldn't get there. I just thought maybe on Monday morning we were going to get some shorter prices, not even just the top tier, but just guys, even the Grillo, the Straka price, some of those other guys that are in that mix. I don't know. I thought they'd be shorter, but yeah, I mean, we got to wrestle with the fact, is Grillo a 2-time winner on tour in season? Is he winning 2 events in a season? Is he going to be, if he wins this event, he has as many wins on tour this season as Scotty Scheffler. Are we ready to go there?
I don't like to use that sort of stuff to talk me out of a bet.
No, so I know.
I just stuck with the numbers and said, like, hey, it's 3M, like Cam Champ won here. Michael That's Thompson. True. It's if a guy's coming in with the form and the necessary game to beat a course like this and the price is all right, I guess I'll bet him. So speaking of Sepp Straka and speaking of the Ryder Cup, let's talk about a guy. I want your opinion quick. Does Ludvig make that team? Is he your 11th or 12th man on? They are deep at the back end here up. I'm worried.
Yeah, I don't know
that like our bottom 6.
I don't know why they
savage.
I don't know why they wouldn't.
Okay. Fine, I'm saying this
know.
because
I talked
was
to some.
Feinberg had Bovada / Bodog put up a price for it on that hashtag what's your wager, and they put up like plus 175. I thought it was 50-50 at that point, so I put a couple $100 on Aberg to make the Ryder Cup at plus 175. So I'm cheering for at least, I don't have him outright. I haven't looked at any of his matchups, but I'd love to see him play well because making the Ryder Cup benefits me financially.
I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, look at this point, the kid like long and straight plays anywhere. It's a shorter course, in the sense that Americans might have backed into a nice fit with Brian Harman, who hasn't wouldn't necessarily be a good fit at say Whistling Straits, but is a really good fit in Rome. You don't need to put him out for everything. You put him out for head to heads. You put him out for just match play stuff, and that's. I don't know. I feel like he can go out and beat any of these guys. So I think he's going to make it real easy because he's just going to go out and win this week and solidify his spot. Because I love how he's playing. I love what we've seen of him of late. I wanted maybe a little bit longer of an up. 35s are out there. I think 30 is the best in the market right now on young Ludvig. And yeah, T20 at plus 170. He is my top of the board, shortest number that I bet here. When you look, he's played in 5 events since turning pro officially, right? He has either led the field in strokes gained off the tee or finished in the top 3. In all 5 events, he has been plus distance and he is plus accuracy. So rare combination. Again, 5 events, so small sample. Not a great showing in Scotland. I'm willing to throw it out. Links golf, traveling overseas, and all that stuff is it could be unique. But T4 last time out, the John Deere, and he gained an approach, which kind of lines up with how he was coming up. Like, he wasn't the guy that was just bombing putts because his approach game has been kind of middling since he turned pro, but almost a stroke per round on approach at the John Deere. T4 there, those approach numbers were 14th for the week. I love everything about where he's at and in a place where long and straight seems to matter more than anything. Because this is kind of a long course still. It's like, 9th or 10th longest on tour. So he's not going to have to be in, forced layups to find the fairways. He's going to be able to take out driver. And, these around the green stuff doesn't matter too much. Love him 35. And I think he answers the Ryder Cup question pretty cleanly this week with his win or, top 10 finish here.
Yeah, I'd go for a top 10 finish out of him. I did... In this range, this is kind of where I started attacking heavily, as we often do, and I think this sort of event lends itself to this. We have some double dips that we'll talk about, but somebody, again, I was pissed on, and producer Dan will tell you what kind of number he got on Glover, but again, it was like a 50, 55 on Glover in the morning, and I'm like, man, that should be like 30. And there's so many people that I think should be 30 that essentially I'm wrong because not everybody can be 30 to 1. But he is, if you run a form model right now and it includes anything short term, he's form monster, 5th, 6th, and 4th his last 3 outs. Again, great ball striking, horrible putter. Those kind of guys have placed high here. He's number 1 in the field over the last 50 rounds in good drives gained. Not as granular as what you were doing with some of the distance from the fairway kind of stuff, but good drives gains, just means even if you haven't found the fairway, you found the green. It's your ability to just find the green in regulation despite, the drive. So kind of keeping himself out of trouble there and then, just the approach is not only just good, his greens and regulation numbers over the last 50 rounds, he's top 10 in the field here. He's good enough to win this. 40, 45, 50 to 1 was a bit high. I mean, there were 60s. That number was a little high considering how well he's played the last few times out. Just coming in hot. So we'll ride the hot glove.
And kind of you look long-term, shitty putter, but he spoke about some recent changes in his putting, and you've seen it. So that's encouraging too. Like he lost strokes last week at the Barracuda, but the 2 previous starts he gained strokes on the green. And I mean, we're far away from him. This dude won a U.S. Open. So he's the pedigree is there. Like he seems to be a guy that's kind of shaping into a late season, he's going to be a Champions Tour guy in the next handful of years. But as of now, still playing really good golf. I got him this morning at plus 120 to T30, a guy that I liked quite a bit, but I wanted him to be 60. Even though just, that, and that's the name thing in my mind. Like, am I going to kind of bet Lucas Glover at 35? Probably not. 40 still a good number, even though you missed the best of it. But I like the form case for sure. And I think a great finishing position bet without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're living in the middle here. And I like a lot of these guys, and we have a couple that are overlap, which are not, it's not breaking news for anyone who's been riding with us this season. A couple of these guys.
Yeah. We made the joke. We should just replay that clip, but Aaron Rye is another one I looked at. I have a matchup I'm zooming in on as well with him. When I ran all of my power numbers and did a weighted average of those with form, approach, mixed approach, and then a mixed course fit power ranking, he was number one across the board. Not first in all three, but as far as doing a weighted average of the power rankings, he came out tops. I always bet my top guy. Unless the price is just ludicrous. A lot of times when you do it, it's like, oh, Scotty's the top guy. No shit. I don't always bet him at like 6-1. Obviously saving myself some money by doing so because I should be betting him top 10. But he was the top ranked golfer, Aaron Rye, in the stuff I put together. 6th overall in form, 1st in the long-term approach and greens for regulation, and 3rd in the course fit for the week. He is another member of Team No Putt, but again, this is a place where, it's pure bent grass. Some guys can find it here. If the rest of the game is putting you in good scoring positions, it just takes a little bit of positive regression on the flat stick to end up with a decent results here. Obviously, a guy who can come out hot in round ones. We've seen that lots in his career so far over here, and it made decent results late. I mean, top 10 at the Rocket, top 10 at the Canadian. He has placed high in some places with some, maybe I don't want to put the Rocket up there as high, but the Canadian had a really nice field. He still played very well and finished in the top 10 up there. So 45 to 1 on Aaron Rye. Like him a lot this week.
Yep. A place like, I think you get a little Sawgrass. Again, you get some Florida courses, PGA National. Those are fits for Aaron Rye too. Another guy that I grabbed this morning, T30 at minus 110. Like him to be in the mix. Another guy that I like that I just thought the number was a little bit off. And part of it was I wanted to, kind of peel it back a little bit this week too, because I had overextended for the Open Championship. That did not include Brian Harman. So I wanted to peel back some of the outright numbers. But yeah, and these are guys that I think you can make a case for. Gary Woodland's in that mix for me. Another T30 number that I grabbed that, again, we know the contention on Gary Woodland, obviously another massive team captain of Team No Putt, who I think is a viable play in the finishing position market. I can't get there on the outrights, but do you have any more before we get to some of the guys that we overlapped on?
Højgaard, the one Højgaard. I did play him at 50 to 1 too. This was another one where it's like, I said I preferred accuracy off the tee, but I will take distance. This is a guy who could absolutely miss the cut if things get squirrely off the tee and he's in the water a bunch, but he's 5th in driving distance on the DP this year. And that's not one of those things where it's like, oh, well, it's playing on the lesser tour, like distance is distance. You can bring that number over here, and he's obviously a bomber. If he stays dry, like I wrote, he'll have a lot of short irons. He can hit those with a plum. He has a lot of scoring numbers. When you get him on courses like this where his distance matters and can matter, he does end up with a lot of opportunities gained, obviously. And this is just kind of a no shit, Andy. He's great with par 5 scoring, hitting the ball 330 plus yards, helps you on par 5s quite a bit. There's some scoreable par 5s here for sure. And then, just top 10 in Europe in greens and regulation percentage as well. He is finding those greens after the long bombs. 50 to 1, Nikolai Højgaard. Thank you for putting in the fancy O on the graphic for me, Dan. I don't think I've ever bet on him before, but I'm starting to pull in more and more DP data and, use that. And I kind of liked him a lot this year.
Yeah. Big DP guy, Andy. I got Højgaard at plus 140 to finish T40 on FanDuel. So I know what I said. But yeah, I like the kid
I
too. And
noticed.
yeah, I've been on him a handful of times. But yeah, just another young. I mean, both him and Rasmus. I think at this point, Nikolai is probably a little bit better. And yeah, both of the kids can hit a mile, and yeah, excited to see them. Hopefully more here in the States. So now I think we're in the
now we're
Betsperts
double
Golf
dipping.
All-Stars.
I'll let you lead with this guy. I bet him as well. I tweeted about him. This is the I think there's probably a case for this every week where, realistic, pragmatic person which outright would you like to win the most? Well, it's the one with the biggest number, or the one with the biggest, if you bet differently on each, the one that makes me the most money, which, for me would be a much bigger price than this. But if I had to really choose, I would love to see Eric Cole in this week. I should ask too. I wonder how, maybe somebody who's listening knows. Hopefully the heat doesn't affect him. He's old rookie with some lifelong health issues, but like, I don't think it's going to be too bad. It is going to be hot as shit out this week. That's like a theme for the 3M Open. It's always like the hottest week of the year here for some goddamn reason. But yeah, I love him. Take it away. Tell me why you bet him.
Yeah, Eric Cole's the guy that kind of led me to going down the wormhole of the driving accuracy and distance from the edge of the fairway stuff, where he, and I looked and I was like, well, look at where he's played. He's played at places that have really prioritized driving accuracy. We're looking at PGA National. And again, like that's referenced often, a lot of water there in Florida. That was the spot where he finished second to Chris Kirk kind of early in the season and got on everyone's radar. Again, this is not like some of the other guys that we're talking about often, these like 24-year-old up-and-comers. Eric Cole's 35. He's had some off-the-course stuff that's, put him into this situation, but finally playing really good golf, good finish at Muirfield Village. Where there's not a lot of water there, but like driving accuracy matters. It's definitely a thing. And then same thing, TPC River Highlands a few weeks ago in Cromwell, like you need to be able to manage the water there as well. And he's played really well in those spots. Distance from the edge of the fairway, significantly better than his overall driving accuracy. So that just tells me when he misses the fairway, he doesn't miss by much. We have, some exciting people joining the chat. They liked my DP.
Shout out to the crew on Twitch.
So yeah, I mean, the accuracy off the tee, Eric Cole, is something that, again, is. Are you shutting up? I missed it. Oh. Anyway, Eric Cole playing good. He can compete when scoring gets low as well. When you look at where he's played well, Mexico, you got to get a lot of birdies. Byron Nelson, you got to put out a lot of birdies. He's actually fourth in the field in birdie or better percentage in the last 24 rounds. So all the things that we're kind of prioritizing, accuracy, this is kind of hanging back a little bit, but he's fine. You can get a lot of birdies. 60-1 was the number that I got. He's available on Rivers at plus 105 to T40. I think probably anything still in the 45 to 50 range is still viable. Yeah.
Worst price for me. Obviously, that's kind of my theme this week, but I'll still be cheering. Yeah, this is a fantastic number on Eric Cole by you for sure. The second one that we both ended up on, Austin Eckroat. Another one where, same kind of thing. You got a better price than me, but man, it's another one where, hey, your approach game is just kind of nails at this time, and your accuracy is good enough where I'm willing to deal with you here. And I would have loved to. Let's get this guy in some more Stableford events, I guess. His game applies the same way that Akshay's applies, honestly. Like, hey, this guy can put himself in a lot of situations for scoring opportunities. Birdies are better, things of that nature. So you got to bet 90 to 1, you freaking animal.
Yeah, 80s, and there's like a 90 for a little bit on Rivers. And they release their enhanced market. I always wait for that on Monday morning. If Rivers is best in market, they'll hang out those numbers to let you do each ways for about 2 hours or so. Then they'll come out with an enhanced market, just a to win only, which is what most other books offer to begin with. And then they usually, depending on where the guy is, they'll bump that number up. So the guys that are really short, like they'll sometimes only be 2 points or so. But sometimes the guys that are like way down the board, The enhanced market will see like 10, 25 points higher than where you would typically see them. So, if you're stateside and you have access to Bet Rivers, look for that on Monday morning. Sometimes if they're the best, wait for that enhanced. So yeah, Eckroat. Look, we've been on him a ton. He cooled off a little bit, but I still think everything that we want this week he does. So I think he is maybe not a form king at this point, but definitely I think a great course fit. Again, similar to Eric Cole, when we need to get birdies, he can do that. Again, T2 at Byron Nelson, you're getting in the mid-20s, low 20s there. Punakana, you got to score. Solo fifth there. You got to 16 under, slightly above average, both in accuracy and distance off the tee. So again, this kid we're not far removed from a T10 at the U.S. Open, a few weeks back. So the pedigree is there. Young kid, weaker field. 90 is a great number. What was my finishing position? I got him at T40 at plus 110 this morning as well. So like Eckroat to kind of get back onto the horse.
Yeah, top 15 off the tee right now in the field. And basically one of those guys where when you look across the board at the prices, the metrics, just, your basic SG stats, there's nothing that's like, hey, you're bad at this. Like, here's your one huge deficiency. Across the board, he's at least a slightly above average. Around the green, I think would be his lowest number if you looked at the last 50. Everything else is very good. Tee to green, top 20, ball striking is 24th in this field. And then some of the, the granular stuff I use for course fit, good drives gained, he's 22nd. Par 5 scoring, he's 40th out of 160. Just a bunch of stuff that's well above average and a decent price in him. So I like him. Hiko. I didn't see this one. I didn't even see this in the chat. Maybe I missed this. This is a big number too.
Yeah. It's a big number. Let me see where we're at now on Higo. It's significantly shorter. I'm about double. Looks like MGM is a 75. Everything else is in the 60 range. So look, I mean, I was like, I feel like this kid's been around forever, and he kind of has, but he's still only 24. He just kind of came on to the scene pretty early, in like a really nice little stretch of run, and he was playing like the Sunshine Tour and the Challenge Tour, and like just got on an absolute heater, and then like won a couple events in the DP World Tour, like back to back, and then comes on in his first week of the one and done Palmetto and wins at the Palmetto, the strange COVID year. But when you look at kind of his finishing positions, he's as streaky as they get. He's basically like not in the mix, or he is like running off a handful of T20s, mixing in some T10s. Like, he's been competitive, and that's where we're at right now. We're in the back of T21 of John Deere, T19 of the Scottish. Driver is what he does best, and he is, again, like Aberg in a way. He's long and straight. He has gained strokes off the tee in 11 of the past 12. Accuracy is plus, which we don't really see often for guys that are plus distance as well. So, again, 125 was a great number. Probably not getting involved in the 60s if you missed it. Again, get in the Discord, get those early numbers. T40 on FanDuel is plus 140. That might not be for everyone because there's probably a lot of variance for a guy like this. As we mentioned, like, he's sometimes either in the first page of the leaderboard or nowhere to be found. But right now he's in the middle of it, and I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to get himself in trouble off the tee based off of kind of how he plays. He's just going to be a guy that maybe sprays it with irons and doesn't make a lot of putts if he goes sideways. So yeah, 125 I think is a great number.
Yeah, I have a couple bombs. I didn't have a lot to say about them because I kind of hate playing prices that big, but it was a couple of guys that popped pretty high in the numbers. And I said I kind of have to play these big prices, especially, there was a triple digit one I have as well. I mean, just because we don't have cards for these. Dylan Wu, who is one of the better, par 5 players. He has a little bit of that distance, and he's, actually kind of really good tee to green. I haven't seen a huge, drop in any part of his game. Decent enough putter. Just another one where the form is pretty good, and it's like, man, you're like 100-1. And then I shop around a little, and there's a 125. So I played a little Dylan Wu. Chun An Yu, depending on your place. He's another one of the Asians that has a couple names. Well, like our friend Tom the Kim, where it is Kevin Yu at a lot of places, not actually his name. He's another one too, where he's, I don't know, just like poor man's Aaron Rye, like kind of the same skill set. Really, really struggling with the putter. His around the green stuff isn't great, but he's another one that's super high off the tee, strokes gained week in, week out. He can play well, and he was like 80, 90 to 1. So a couple of bombs I took, and then I think that might be it for my bets. I think that was all 8. We talked about 4. We talked about the 2 I overlapped with. I don't know if you got anything else.
No, I only have the 4 outrights. I was with you. Like for me, it was M at the top, but it still wasn't the guy that I that wanted to spend that really short price on. Again, we're heading into playoff season, and I'd rather wait till we get some of those big fields. I like Aberg this week. I think he's going to be a guy that I want to be there every week, especially a spot where it's like I'm not just blindly going to chase the guy. I feel like it's a really good course fit. So that was my guy at the top. Considered, Grillo and Straka, like you mentioned, like those guys quite a bit. But yeah, it's a board that I like. I like a lot of the guys, but I went finishing position route versus spraying more outrights, just to back off of, last week having some Scotty, having Cam, having Brooks, having Vic. Like those are expensive tickets. And when those don't land, just needed to, bankroll manage a little bit more responsibly this week at the, sub 50 numbers. So just have the one and feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a couple more places, which it's funny how I made this mistake with outright prices, and I just talked about it, but I'm still sitting here waiting for Bookmaker to put matchup prices up. I have like 6 matchups that I'm very much looking at. I just really wish they were available everywhere so I can kind of do a little price shopping comparison, get some market sentiment on a few guys that I'm worried are a little cold among the places with the money pouring in. But for the most part, it's some of the same guys I talked at. Like, just spoiler off the top, I believe it's an Aaron Rye over Sahith Thigala matchup. I like that one quite a bit. There's a couple of the guys I looked at outright that have some matchups that I think are plus EV at the current prices. So I'll have some of that out. Obviously, follow the newsletter. I'll have a free play in there. If you're in the Discord, I'll have some more plays out in there later on today. And then, like I said, you can find me on the Twitter and the Instagram. I'll be putting some pictures up from the course. Actually, I just like walking around. I always forget to take pictures. I took like 2 pictures in 3 days last time I went up. Like, oh shit, I forgot to do this. I just wanted I was with Stewie Sink at a Pro-Am, and I don't know, it was quiet. There wasn't like a crowd, so you could hear him talking, and he was giving Larry Fitzgerald advice on like half the holes after he'd make his swings. The shit was interesting, like when you could get close enough to hear it. So I wasn't sitting there taking a lot. I took a picture of Larry Fitzgerald's bag. I have that somewhere because it's just a bat. The cool script pit logo.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's his bag, which it was pretty badass.
Cool.
But I'll get some nice pictures of the course. I'll have some takes. I'll talk to some guys. I'm going to try to make it to Justin Thomas's press conference here in about 3 hours. So we'll see if anything comes of that. BetSpurtsGolf.com, BetSpurtsGolf on Twitter, Andy MSFW on Twitter, RY Noonan on Twitter. I just keep saying Twitter until we stop calling it X because that is fucking dumb. Best luck to us. I went smaller on my outrights this week. I just quarter unit on everything because I knew I was going to spray the board a little this week. Even the short price, like Mr. Grillo, I didn't go any bigger on that. Just flat staking across the board on those 8 for me. If you have any questions, you find us on Twitter, find us on the Discord, find us anywhere. Leave some comments on this. If you like golf and you like betting on golf, please hit the thumbs up. That helps a lot for this to get found by more people and keeps the lights on here at BetSpurts Golf. So appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you next week for